Hey, it's Tamu, and welcome to Thinking Out Loud. And in today's video, we'll be talking about The Legend of Zelda, and more specifically, where the series might be going after Tears of the Kingdom. With the release of the Switch 2, it's a fascinating time to really speculate, especially since Tears of the Kingdom felt like the most complete realization yet of the open world Zelda formula. So the question is now, where do they really go from here? Do they move beyond Hyrule, introducing a new setting that reinvigorates the series, or even going back to an older setting? Do they add a bold new mechanic that redefines and reshapes the whole experience? Or do they return to the more traditional roots with handcrafted dungeons, linear exploration? Personally, I wonder if the next Zelda might try to bridge the gap together between the new players and the old, drawing the sandbox and freedom that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had, that allure that attracted players, with long-term fans who prefer the more classic adventure-driven linear structure. If Nintendo can find a way to make these two different formulas and blueprints kind of meld together and make an experience, it could easily result in something that could be one of the best entries in the whole series. The first three Zelda games would be considered open world for their time, and sure, over the course of the years, the formula for Zelda became more refined, and in turn, that led to more linear exploration, the ones that are the like of your N64 and GameCube era games. But in a weird way, I do feel that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they serve as a full circle moment, really, where the formula has returned to its origin point with new technology and ideas, and now with Nintendo stating this formula is the way forward in future, I really do wonder how it will be iterated on and evolve over time, and will we eventually see a similar kind of progression of evolution for this series, but just from a 2.0 starting point, being the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, instead of your Legend of Zelda, Link's Adventure, Link to the Past, and those origin points. Of course, how exactly they'd achieve that balance is a hard thing to predict. But again, tying this whole point together, I want to say that Breath of the Wild really was a moment of reflection to the original release of Zelda, and it was just trying to capture that magic of The Legend of Zelda. So I do think that continued evolution and reflection is pivotal and probably will lead to the next form of iteration. And if we're at that third game here, we might be looking at the next game, looking to retread ground and iterate and evolve in a way much like A Link to the Past did. There's also the hardware factor. For the first time in years, Nintendo won't be constrained by the limitations of the original Switch. This could mean a much larger, denser Hyrule, entirely new regions to explore even, or a deeper evolution of the systemic cause and effect systems and design that would really bake themselves and underpin the original games. But it would be interesting to see how they use these different ideas that have been introduced, like those systemic systems. They could have these coupled in a way that could play into the more traditional blueprints of these games. These things could have effects in dungeons, or effects in the ways that objects and things within dungeons operate, having an impact and cause and effect on Link and things like this. It would be really cool to see what they could really do with it. And finally, there's the matter of the story. How will the next game continue the narrative or reposition itself within the ever-expanding Zelda timeline? There are many routes that the series could go, and it does feel like it is an interesting crossroads in terms of what they can now do with this new technology. Another element they could add is a full Four Swords kind of mode and this sort of multiplayer function. I mean, there was demand for it with mods that people made over a couple years ago. It really does feel like simply building on the current blueprint a third time around does feel like it could lead to fatigue. I mean, Breath of the Wild was a great different kind of experience, and I think Tears of the Kingdom was a stellar iteration on that. But I do see people already complaining about that game just feeling like a 1.5 video game. Whilst I disagree with those sentiments, and I think that the way that Tears of the Kingdom has iterated on Breath of the Wild, it truly is unique, it does feel like people getting a third game like this may start to groan. To me, I feel the best direction forward for Zelda is bridging the fanbase between old and new, utilizing the systems in a way that could be threaded into a traditional dungeon, and at the same time could retain its open world blueprint that speaks to curiosity and creativity. I think this in large part comes down to the tools that are given to Link, and I think that the way they could mix these to work in dungeons in a traditional sense, and then also have their own operations within the open world in the modern sense. To me, I feel the modern Zelda games excel at best creating a sense of curiosity through exploration of its world. What's off in the distance, and Tears of the Kingdom further built on this by taking that curiosity further, but infusing it with a sense of creativity of building and constructing a world in this sandbox depiction of Hyrule. Taking these ideas and marrying them with the puzzles, unique and intentional dungeons of old, and having a narrative that is linear in how it's told would be a home run, because the disjointed story of the modern Zeldas is a one setback that I think is undeniable compared to many of the more linear experiences, but I guess that's also just a subjective thing. Overall, these are just my opinions. I'm not a game developer, I don't know the answers, but it's fun to ponder, man, and I would be really interested to ask you. I'm sure there's many fans out there who are fans of many different iterations of the Zelda series, and it is a very creative and interesting series that has seen much evolution over the years. So I want to ask, where do you feel the series should go next, and what do you feel you would like to see from a Zelda game in the future? Do you think the series should go back to its roots entirely, or would you like to see another game with a more open sandbox kind of formula? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd be very curious to hear where player fan sentiment is at on that. And as always, I'd just like to hear what you're playing. You can leave stuff down below and let us know what you're playing right now. It's really interesting just to have discussions. And as always, I'm Tamu, and this has been Thinking Out Loud. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.